Welcome to Bet On It. It is college football week 6. I cannot believe we're just flying through this one. I am Kelly Stewart, joined by Marco D'Angelo and Joe Raineri. We're going to get right into it, guys, because I already asked how your weekends were on Monday. We already know this college football show is on the up and up because we're finally cashing some of those best bets. But we're going to get into the big game breakdown before we kick it over to Ralph. Saturday, ESPN 12 Eastern, Tennessee, -3 at LSU. Total down to 64 in some spots on the Wager Talk odds screen. Marco, I'm going to go to you first. Good friend Megan making money. I do a show with her 3 days a week, is absolutely and utterly terrified of this line. I said, I don't know. It looks like a trap game, just begging me to take your Tigers here. I want to know your thoughts on this SEC showdown.
Well, Kelly, I'm going to go ahead and look at the LSU Tigers plus the points here. You look at LSU, and people are going to look to last week's game, see that they barely escaped with a 21-17 win as an 8-point favorite over Auburn. And my thing is, was LSU looking ahead? I know Auburn's been a big name in the past, but they're trash this year. So to look past Auburn to Tennessee, yeah, I think they did last week. Tennessee has 2 signature wins on the season. That's Pitt and Florida. Now, at the time, both of those wins looked pretty good, except now we fast forward. Do they really look as good as they did when they occurred? Pitt has, shit the bed last week against Georgia Tech. There's just no other way to put it. A disgrace for the Pitt Panthers. And Florida's not been that good. We thought that things were going to be turned around after they mild upset of Utah in week 1. They've been mediocre since. So I'm not impressed with them. Yes, Tennessee is a 200 club member, running and passing for over 200 yards. That's something I like to look for. But on the flip side, we're going to go back and look at this LSU defense and say this will be the best defense Tennessee has faced so far. Also, we're now 5 games in to the new head coaching regime of Brian Kelly. They should be getting his offensive and defensive schemes down now. The only thing I wish this was, it was a night game in LSU. That would make it even better. But I'm going to go ahead. You know what phrase I was going to put here at some point. Give me the better defense. Give me getting points. Throw in that they're playing at home. That lines me up on LSU for a mild upset, 31-28. So tell Megan she can make some money.
I think she's going to be okay. I've not been sold on this Vols team, particularly in the favorite role. Bet against them twice now this season. Joe, this looks like a very short line on the road. Super easy for Tennessee just to go in there and roll. Are you falling for the trap game? Or are you with Marco and I on the Tigers?
I got a different angle here, which I think we'll all end up being very, very comfortable with. But the reality is I love the scheduling spot here for Tennessee. I like the advantage that they have coming into this game. Still, we've got a ton of question marks regarding Jaden Daniels, who was out in that last game against Auburn there. Not going to be 100%. It's not like he is throwing the ball all over the field anyway. For LSU to have success, they've got to have success running the football here. And it's an underrated part of this Tennessee team. We all know about Josh Heupel and the offense and, Hooker, everybody. These guys are great. But it's the defense, I think, that is going to win this game for them in the long run by stopping the run and making whoever might be the quarterback for LSU a little one-dimensional. But it's the stat, Cal, I think, that I came across that really sold it for me in this game. And it has to do with Josh Heupel. 3 years at UCF, now 2 years at Tennessee. And get this, he is 18-2 on the first half line in road games. His teams are 18-2 covering early in games. He is 15-1 as a head coach in road games where the total is more than 31.5. Why? It doesn't shock me. None of these numbers shock me given how they like to come out throwing the ball. They love to get off to fast starts. All of those first half plays very scripted, as I think I'm on fire here in this studio. And I do think the first half is the way to play this game. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and that ain't broke. That record right there, 18 and 2,
like your
2.5.
detector
I don't know what's going on here. It's like I got fire. If I start to burn up in flames, you guys know exactly what happened. But take the first half and lay the 2.5. I believe is the number there with Tennessee.
I don't hate that angle as well. We're going to kick it back to you, Joe. Saturday on Fox, 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. Utah faces UCLA as a 4.5-point road favorite. Total 65 here. I'm just going to throw it out there. We already know I'm going to be on the home dog here in UCLA. Even if their stadium is completely empty, I do like them plus the points.
Yeah, I got to tell you here, this is Chip Kelly at his finest. He's got this team playing, but do we trust him? We know Utah at home is a different animal than Utah at home rather is a different animal than on the road here. And UCLA, I mean, what more can we say about this UCLA team and what they have been able to do? I mean, undefeated is undefeated, right? I mean, they've won the games and they've played against who they have. I do think there's a lot of experience with this team here, Cal. I think at home it's going to be a tough one. This was as high as 4.5. I think we've seen it come down to 4, maybe even 3.5. But the thing that really interests me in this game, Cal, is the ability for teams that are an underdog who have started the season off like they have, undefeated, and now they're a dog at home right around this time of year, and those teams are nearly 70% against the number when they're a dog at this juncture. So I do think UCLA has got more than enough firepower, more than enough experience to be able to hang with this Utah team. I think Utah on the road is absolutely fadeable, at least for the early going of this game as well. But I'll take the 3.5, 4, however many I can get. I am backing UCLA to be able to continue the undefeated streak here on the season.
Marco, you and I love certain situational spots, and the Utes, highly ranked, play who next week? That's right, the USC Trojans. Do you think maybe the Utes are looking ahead past UCLA, or is that undefeated mark Joe just mentioned enough for them to keep their focus?
When you talk about the Pac-12, there's two teams. When you talk about history and tradition, it's USC and it's UCLA. UCLA's undefeated, so no, they're not going to look ahead. You know what I am going to look at? I'm going to look at Bowling Green, Alabama State, South Alabama, Colorado, and last week we stepped it up and we played Washington. Who the hell has UCLA played? No, I'm not buying it. I've seen this Chip Kelly movie before. We're going to run up and down the field, score a bushel of points, look all impressive, and then the first time somebody punches us in the mouth, we fold like a cheap suit. Well, you know what? Utah's going to punch them in the mouth. Utah is the one team in the Pac-12 that plays physical football. Most of the teams are finesse teams. They want to run and gun. That's not going to get it done against this Utah team. They're a veteran team. They were my pick to win the Pac-12. Well, if you're going to win the Pac-12, you better win this game on Saturday, and that's what I have them doing. I'm going to lay the points with Utah here, and I hope all that home underdog money keeps coming in. I'm waiting until game day to bet this one because I think it's going to be the best price. Yeah, does UCLA look good? Of course they do with that schedule. Washington game last week, yeah, they got the job done. But my problem is they gave up 32 points in that game. It was a Friday night game. Kelly, we talk about those primetime standalone games on Thursdays and Fridays. The home team has an added advantage in those games. They got the job done, but it wasn't easy. Both teams went up and down the field. Washington doesn't play great defense. Utah does. I'm going to take Utah. I'm going to lay the points. They'll win the battle of time of possession. And you hear me talk about 200 club teams all the time. Obviously, UCLA is one. But you know what? So is the Utah Utes. You don't think about Utah as an offensive team. They get 204 on the ground and 250 through the air. And what's going to happen in this game? Because they're methodical, they'll keep that UCLA team on the sidelines because they're going to have long, methodical drives down the field. And what that does, when you've got an offense that's a high-flying offense, you can frustrate them by sitting on the sidelines for long periods of time. And when they get in there, they try to do too much too quick. I'll take Utah 37-27.
Kel, I got the
Marco.
number for you, too. Let me just, so we can quote facts here. 62-39-2 over the last decade. Teams that are 5-0 and then in that sixth game getting points, 62-39-2, and it's even better at home. 33-7 ATS, unbeaten's at home, catching points in this spot.
Yeah, I almost called Marco out, but he already threw himself under the bus talking about his Pac-12 future, which I also have because I tailed Marco on it. So maybe I may have to sit this one out just because I don't like having conflicting bets. Maybe this game lands 3 and Joe and I are happy and Marco's still somewhat happy. We're gonna kick it over now. Joe already brought some TNA, so now we're going to kick it over to Ralph Michaels with some college football Week 6 trends and angles. There he is, the man with the pen, Mr. Ralph Michaels, who has been crushing college football TNA. Ralph, I saw your tweet. I can't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday, but you swept the TNA board. If you guys are not following Ralph on Twitter at CalSportsLV, you get tons more TNA there. Ralph, what have you dug up for us? College football Week 6.
Well, full disclosure, Kelly, we didn't quite sweep the board, but for those that missed last week's show, do go back in the timeline at Twitter and take a look at some of those interesting systems and situations that will continue to make you money throughout the season. I may sound like a broken record how I'm going to start this. This one just continues to win. And it's now 66% since 2014. And what am I going to start with? Something I started with last week as well, I believe. Teams that are outgained by 120 yards or more and won the game, and now they're an away dog. If you got outgained, you probably weren't the better team. Something fortunate happened. Turnovers are special teams. You are probably overpriced a little bit. Now you're going on the road and you're an inferior foe. Since 2014, those teams have gone 22, 42, and 2. That is 34.4%. That is a 65.6 play against. One team fits the mold, and that is Southern Miss playing against Troy. Oh, yeah, by the way, those teams in those situations have also gone 28-36 over-under. That is 43.8% to the under. You know, a lot of us watched that LSU game and how bad they were outgained last week. So I wanted to take a step further. I talked about teams getting outgained by 120 yards, but how about teams that got outgained by 150 yards or more and won? Does it apply? Well, in the first one, you had to outgain your foe by 120 yards, and you had to be an away dog. When you get up to that next level of getting outgained by 150 yards or more, it doesn't matter what you are the next week. A home favorite, a home dog, away favorite, or away dog. Teams that got outgained by 150 yards or more have gone 50-73. That's 41%. But early in the season, from games 2 through 8, when you've been outgained by 150 yards like LSU was last week, those teams have gone 25-50. That is 33% against the spread. When you have something that only cashes 33% for the last 10 years, it's something you need to pay attention to. And now I want to talk about teams that one is an away dog of 17 or more and are now a home dog. Obviously, it doesn't happen. There's a handful of upsets each year where an underdog was an underdog of 17 or more and they win the game outright. Who did that last week? Well, that was the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They knocked off Pittsburgh as a dog of over 3 touchdowns. Since 2011, if you win the game as a dog of 17 or more, and now you're a home dog like they are, those teams have gone 3-18. That's 3 wins in 21 attempts. That is a whopping 14.3%. This system says to fade Georgia Tech this week.
Good stuff, Ralph. I always love when you kind of just put that little thing in the back of my mind that says just maybe last week was a little fluky. Some of those games where you want to stay off or you want to play on, that's what these are so good for. And that is why I love our TNA segment. What else have you dug up for us for this week?
Well, this one's going to be to fade Northwestern. And what's the situation? When you have a home dog of 7 or more, and they're playing an opponent that's off a home loss as a favorite. So that's something I look at all the time. Kelly, I know you do. We talk about it. When you have a quality team, well, it's not quite a quality team this year, but when you have a team that loses as a home favorite, and now they're going on the road, and they're a big away favorite of 7 or more. So you're off an embarrassing loss. You know you're the superior team, like Wisconsin is to Northwestern. Those teams, like Wisconsin, that I started off saying play against a home dog of 7 or more with opponent off a loss as a home favorite. That's the same thing as saying play on a team that lost as a home favorite like Wisconsin and now is an away favorite of 7 or more. So both are saying the exact same things, how you have it flipped. It says to fade Northwestern or play on Wisconsin. The record for Wisconsin, 58-30-2. That is 66% against the spread. So a team loses as a home favorite, you go on the road, now you're a big away favorite of 7 or more. 66% angle that says play on Wisconsin or fade Northwestern. 2 more to go to finish up the college football TNA segment. We did talk about this one either last week or a couple weeks ago. It did cash, so I want to bring it up again. You lose to this opponent 2 games ago as a favorite. You lose to this opponent last time you played them as a favorite. So you have double revenge, losing as a favorite both games. Now you're on the road, and you're either a favorite or a dog up to 15. So that applies to everyone except if you're a dog of 15.5 or more. 2 teams fit that mold. Western Kentucky has lost their last 2 games as a favorite to UTSA. Wyoming has lost their last 2 games to New Mexico as a favorite. Those teams in that double revenge spot, now 83, 51-3, 62% against the spread. Another situation that makes total sense to me, a team is fired up, losing as a favorite. A team is fired up, losing as a favorite each of the last 2 times. And this time they're either the better team or not getting in a position where they're a huge underdog. 83, 51-3, 62%. And the final one, I'm not sure I'm getting to the window with this one, Kel, but an interesting number, and I want to bring it up. 48 occurrences, 79%. What's the system? You play on a conference home dog of 19.5 or more, and they're off a home cover, and you're weeks 5 or later. Now, you might say, why did I randomly pick week 5? I didn't randomly pick week 5. I look at week 5 because that's when most teams start their conference schedules. So to me, it's an important division in that part of the schedule. But when a conference home dog of 19.5 or more is off a home cover and it's week 5 or later, 38-10, 79.2%. That says to take BC plus the points versus Clemson. Doesn't make sense to me. In a way it does, but I can tell you I will not be getting to the window with Boston College. But when I do see a 79% angle, it's something I do pay attention to see what happens as the game progresses.
I think I want to say thanks to Ralph. I'm not sure yet. I was just looking over my long list, and Northwestern was my number 2 team for my parlay that I thought could spring the upset. We were on Illinois last week. Maybe Ralph needs to take a timeout from killing some of these money line dogs for me. All jokes aside, always good stuff. Remember, this is a extra little bonus from Ralph, right? Play on, play against, whatever it may be. Use TNA as a handicapping tool for yourself. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, We're going to see who the guys think is barking this week.
You're a winner at Wager Talk even before the game is played with our Wager Rewards program. How does it work? Simple. Earn wager rewards on every purchase made at Wager Talk and Sports Memo. Those wager rewards can be converted into wager bucks on the first of every month. There is no additional fee to participate, and no additional details are required outside your valid Wager Talk or Sports Memo membership. On the first of each month, 5% of your wager rewards will be converted to wager bucks, which are available to purchase on all future purchases. Doesn't it feel good to be part of a rewards program with no additional hoops?
Welcome back to Bet On It. Now that Ralph Michaels has crushed my hopes and dreams with Northwestern getting that home win, I'm going to go to Marco and Joe and see who their barking dogs are for this week. See if I can't get a replacement, if you will. Marco, I kind of already took a peek and like a little cheat on our note sheet and saw that you and I might be in agreement here. But I don't know if Joe Raineri is going to be too happy with your barking dog.
Well, Kelly, some of my plays this week, I'm going to not make a lot of people happy, so we'll wait for you later in the show. This one here, I'm going Texas Tech. Why? Because let me tell you, Oklahoma State is on fat and sassy alert. After last week, they beat Baylor. That was a big game as far as the Big 12 standings go, but it was an even bigger game for Oklahoma State because they had a little revenge. And, you know, we always talk about revenge, and I tell you, it's the most overused word in sports, but there's certain situations that you remember. And they remembered last year, a Big 12 championship game against Baylor. They got their revenge last Saturday. Now they're going to take on a Texas Tech team. Texas Tech comes in here off a 9-point loss last week to Kansas State. We were on Kansas State in that game, and fine. But I'll be honest, we might have got a little lucky in that game because the turnovers, 4 of them for Texas Tech, ended up being the difference in that game. This Texas Tech team can score points. We know that. Problem's been they give up a lot of points. But given the fact that I expect subpar performance from Oklahoma State, and we look at the difference in schedules. We talked about it on an earlier game. Look at what Oklahoma State has played. And I understand you can only play the schedule that's put in front of you. They did beat Baylor last week. But prior to that, they played Central Michigan, Arizona State, who's horrible this year, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Come on, guys. Where Texas Tech, they've played a good schedule. They opened up with Murray State, but then they played Houston, NC State, Texas, and Kansas State. All quality teams. I'm going with Texas Tech plus the points here. That tough early schedule is only going to make them tougher for matchups later in the season. This is too many points, in my opinion, in what's going to be a typical Big 12 shootout. A lot of offense, no defense. I'm calling it 42-41, Texas Tech. And yeah, if you do the math on my score there, I'm telling you, you might want to look at the over as well.
Look at that over, Marco says. And Joe, I hate to throw salt on the wound, but Texas Tech has covered 5 straight against your Oklahoma State Cowboys.
Mm-hmm. No argument. No argument.
Any rebuttal before you?
No, I don't like the spot for them. I don't. And in many aspects, Texas Tech has been a better football team than Oklahoma State thus far. So I am not in disagreement, Marco, as much as that pains me. Yes, I do believe. Tech ain't winning. Let's get that out of the way. But
whoa! That's the whole point of barking dogs, Joe. No. Like, I don't want dogs that are going to cover. I want dogs that are going to win outright. We've already established this many times.
I think this game comes down to a final possession. Whoever scores wins. If that score can be worth 10,
and it correlates with Marco's over.
That's correct. Absolutely. Okay. But I'm not going to say Oklahoma State's going to lose outright. But they ain't covering by 9.5 either.
On the right side of history here.
They ain't covering 9.5. Hell no.
Texas Tech is definitely on my long list amongst a couple other teams. But now that Northwestern got the axe, Joe, I'm looking for backup plans. Who are you looking for to win outright this week in college football?
Listen, I thought there was a few that we could tackle here this week. But the one that stood out to me, simply because it's been an extremely profitable spot over the years, and that is fading Mr. Lincoln Riley as a double-digit conference favorite, and that's exactly what USC is against. Yep, Washington State. Get a load of this. 11-20 against the spread as a double-digit against conference foes. And by the way, he has failed to cover those games by a touchdown or more. He is the least profitable coach outside of Kurt Ferentz in those types of situations here. Listen, USC is plus 14 in a turnover battle, guys. This is going to start regressing, right? It happened last week against Arizona State. They didn't get any turnovers. I believe it was nothing in a turnover battle. They were not positive in that. And what happened? They failed to cover a 24, 25-point spread. They barely got past a touchdown. So to me, I think Washington State, pretty damn feisty. This is exactly the kind of spot that Lincoln Riley has not been able to get past with other teams in other conferences. I don't see how he gets past it here. If they don't get turnovers, they are not winning by double digits. They're good, but that defense is not that good. So as long as Washington State holds on to the ball, then I absolutely think this is a game that is going to be much closer than the 13 or 13 and a half points that the market thinks it's going to be, Cal.
Joe, I need you to be a little bit more confident on that they're not going to win outright thing. I'm going to just clip that, and that's just going to be my best bet for the show. All jokes aside, Joe already gave it away, but we'll talk a little bit more in depth about the Pac-12 when we get to the end of the show. Ooh. Until then, it's time to fade Joe Public. Joe, who are you fading this week?
Yeah, this was going to be an interesting one too, Cal, because I thought there were actually a few places we could look here, but it appears the public is in love with Kentucky. And they are a monster favorite here against South Carolina, and I am not so sure that is going to take place. A and I mean absolutely heartbreaking loss. And we don't need to replay that, Cal, last week with the opportunity to win the game. And then Will Levis just could not hold on to the ball. But Mark Stoops, not a good spot for him. His teams have not performed in these types of spots here after a straight-up loss. You would think that he would rally the troops, but he hasn't. He's 17-29 against the number. 37% after his teams lose a game straight up like they just did in Lexington. So, again, not a very profitable spot. I do think there isn't going to be a whole lot of people looking at South Carolina as far as the public goes, and I get it. Shane Beamer has already hinted this week that there might be some new starters and new players in both sides of the ball, and that's fine. I think the bottom line is this is the kind of game which should scare anybody backing Kentucky and trying to lay double digits. I do think that the public might be too overzealous in thinking a bounce back is in the cards here for Kentucky. It hasn't been in the past with Stoops, and I don't think it is this weekend either, Cal.
I'm with you, Joe. South Carolina on that same list as possible outright underdog winners, and maybe a situation where they lose that Ole Miss game twice. And kind of part of me is rooting for that. That was a painful loss, so thank you for making me relive that one, Joe. Now I'm a little hungry, Marco, because the deli has been open and it has been profitable in college football and NFL, and I've got to know, because I've got multiple sandwich spots. I got to know who you went with.
Well, Kelly, we're going with a sandwich, but Jesus, Joe's chomping on my sandwich. You're chomping on my sandwich. There's nothing left for me to eat here. Wow. What the hell? I got South Carolina as the sandwich game.
Oh, Marco.
And you got, the sandwich.
Between you two, now I may just have to use South Carolina. They're down my list, but Joe made some really convincing points. I started thinking about it while I was talking, and now the deli?
Yeah, the deli. And Joe, when you go in and and there's a sandwich there and you're going to take some of it, the polite thing to do is to cut it off and take the back half, the end of the sandwich.
The
Don't
heel?
take the middle of my damn
You want me
sandwich,
to heel?
okay?
Is that it? You want me
I'm
to eat the
pissed
heel?
right now, but, I'm going to try to go through. You took the meat of my sandwich. But yeah, it is South Carolina. And Kelly, you put the other part of it. Not only is it a sandwich, but it's a spot where can they lose the same game twice? That was a big game for Kentucky. A lot of hype. Both them and Mississippi coming in undefeated in the SEC, undefeated on the season. That was going to go a long way for positioning in the SEC. And what happens? They lose in gut-wrenching fashion. We talk about it all the time. A lot of times teams have that carryover effect the following week. Then I look and see who's on deck. They've got another team undefeated that was playing well, Mississippi State. They're going to be looking ahead to that one. They're sandwiched in between the Mississippis. I'm taking South Carolina in this game. And Kelly, let's be honest. Kentucky's been good to both of us this year, but let's look at the schedule they played. They did have the game against Florida, and I talked about it earlier in the show when we talked about the Tennessee game. Does Florida look as good as they were at the beginning of the season? I think a little bit, they don't look as good as a darling as they were at the beginning. But then look, they played two MAC conference teams. We know the MAC plays no defense at all. They were overpowered by an SEC team, Miami of Ohio in Northern Illinois, and then throw in Youngstown State for another cupcake game. Now they're going to play a South Carolina team that, although they're 2-3, the two losses were to Arkansas, who's been playing well until they ran into a buzzsaw named Alabama last week, and Georgia. We know what Georgia is, the defending national champs. And if you look in those two games, they lost them badly against Georgia, but they didn't get embarrassed in the Arkansas game. They lost by 2 touchdowns. They were -3 in turnovers in both of those games. If they keep it clean here, they can stay in this game. I like them plus the points. This is going to go down to the wire. I didn't call for the outright upset. I think Kentucky's going to find a way to escape, but I've got it 24-21. Take South Carolina plus the points. Kentucky gets the win, but it's going to be a cover for the Gamecocks.
I love it when we're all in agreement. I don't know if I'm going to get to the window with South Carolina in the parlay, but I do like them plus the points here. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, it's time for those best bets.
You're a winner at Wager Talk even before the game is played with our Wager Rewards program. How does it work? Simple. Earn wager rewards on every purchase made at Wager Talk and Sports Memo. Those wager rewards can be converted into wager bucks on the first of every month. There is no additional fee to participate, and no additional details are required outside your valid Wager Talk or Sports Memo membership. On the first of each month, 5% of your wager rewards will be converted to wager bucks, which are available to purchase on all future purchases. Doesn't it feel good to be part of a rewards program with no additional hoops?
Welcome back to Bet On. It's now time for best bets, and per usual, I get to go first, even though Joe already took my best bet, and that is Wazoo plus 13. It may even get a little higher. I think the whole world's going to want to be on USC, and rightfully so. They've been just cruising right along, except for now, they're not covering games. Joe mentioned the turnover battle, and that is why I've been against USC several times this season. Wazoo was one of my best bets a few weeks ago. Thought that they were going to get the best of Oregon, had the best of Oregon, and then could not finish them off, but they did get the cover for us. I do think that this team has the ability to go in the Coliseum and win this game. 13 points is too many for a USC team that, again, has won the turnover battle in every single game except for last week. I think we're starting to see some regression to the mean here. Washington State can protect the football. I think 2 touchdowns is entirely too many points, and they have the shot to get the win in the Coliseum. Thank you to Joe for doing most of the heavy lifting for me on that one. Marco, it is week 6 in college football. I know you have a best bet, but before we get there, $2 Tuesday was yesterday, and you've decided to leave it up for everyone.
Yeah, you know what, Kelly? We do bet on it on Wednesdays, $2 Tuesdays on Tuesdays, and those guys miss out. So I sat and I called up one of the owners of Wager Talk. That was me. And I said, we're leaving it up. Okay, we're going to leave it up. All right, we're going to have it for $2. Let all of the bet on people benefit from it. Why should they pay $35 just because it's Wednesday? And full disclosure, I hold the current record for the number of $2 Tuesday sales, and I want to make sure I keep it. So I want to have that. I don't care if I have an asterisk behind it like Roger Maris. I'm okay with that. So go to Wager Talk. You don't need a coupon. Pick up $2 Tuesday. On Wednesday, it'll still be there Thursday if you're watching Thursday as well. Get it for $2. It is a 5% play. And guys, we have been killing it in football on the weekends. That's on my plays for the clients. Just clarification there. Check that out. $2 for a 5% play. Now, let's get to my best bet. And as I get to that best bet, young lady, Kelly, pay attention because this is for you, okay? Joe got, my wrath earlier in the show. Now You're going to get it. Last week you went on this big tirade. You can't have little puppies, for barking dogs. No chihuahuas. So this game would have been my barking dog. But I said, you know what? This little chihuahua's got some big ass bite. We're going to make it the best bet. And now you're going to pay for it because I'm going against our Kansas State. I've got a vested interest in Kansas State this year. They've been very good to me. I've got a big 5% play on season win total. I've used them for big plays 3 times this year. Let's continue to have success with them, only this time we're fading them. In Iowa State, you owe me and Joe a winner from last week because you did everything but win that game last week. Up and down or field against Kansas. You missed 3 field goals. You missed the game-tying field goal, which might have been the worst field goal attempt I've ever seen in a short distance to miss by total yards as wide as you were in that game. But I like them here. They had over 100 yards more than Kansas in that game. They turned the football over in that game twice. They get the job done. And as far as Kansas State goes, we talked about it in the Texas Tech game. They got a little bit lucky last week, and I'll take that. The 4 turnovers by Texas Tech helped them to that 9-point victory. You have a team turn the ball over 4 times against you. You should win by more than 9 points. That's a concern. I'm going to go ahead. I am going to take Iowa State here. And for Kansas State, their success is when they run the football. That sets everything else up for them. And they have been marvelous this year running the football. However, they're going to be facing the number 7 ranked rush defense in the country. Iowa State is giving up only 83 yards per game on the ground and 3.0 yards per carry. If Kansas State can't run the football, they're not going to look as good as they've been. And as good as Adrian Martinez has been, it's been because the running game's clicking. I say it all the time. When you've got a good running game, it's going to make an average quarterback better. And he's had a great season, but it stops here. Iowa State, 28-20. Sorry, Kelly.
Oof.
Marco, you don't have to apologize to me. I've been on Iowa State the last 2 weeks, and I know exactly what I'm getting from that team. So I didn't say I'm running to the window. K-State has traditionally played really poorly in Ames, but they do have one of the best blockers in the country in Deuce Vaughn, so that Adrian can cook. I'll leave it at that. Good luck to you. Iowa State, I want no part of after the last 2 weeks. They are on the do not bet list. Joe Raineri, week 6, college football. Who's your best bet?
Well, you don't have to worry about it. If it ever gets down to, 4th and inches to score the game-winning touchdown, Matt Campbell will just try to kick a field goal. It'll be good. Don't you worry about it. It'll be fine. They'll win. Pizza. I'm going to go, Cal, to where everybody else is going to be going this weekend, which should be red flag for everyone. I'm going to Lawrence, Kansas, and I'm going to enjoy the unbelievable beatdown the Kansas Jayhawks are going to be receiving by Sonny Dykes and TCU. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, you've got College Game Day going to Lawrence. Unbelievable story what's happening with this Kansas program and this football team. They are 1 win away from being bowl eligible. I mean, who'd have thought that? You got a basketball team who wins a national championship. Everybody knows KU basketball. People laugh at KU football. They're not laughing anymore. But let's be realistic here. This is a whole different animal coming to town offensively. They were lucky to win that game at Iowa State. They won it because Iowa State beat itself. It wasn't because they were some sort of dominant presence on the field there. They are going to be behind in this game, I think, rather early. That beatdown of OU was darn impressive. And forget about OU's defense. OU's offense is no joke. OU absolutely can put up points with the best of them, and they couldn't come close to catching up with TCU. I don't see how Kansas does it. It's 6.5, 7 points here. I think it's a great story. That bowl eligible season is just around the corner, but you're going to have to wait to get that sixth win. It ain't happening Saturday at home. TCU, Sonny Dykes, roll Kansas up, and it's time for a little back to life, back to reality. It was a pretty good song, by the way. Soul to Soul. Check it out.
Joe, they're gonna have a sellout crowd.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I don't give a shit. They're gonna get run out of the building. That game is over in the first half. Don't expect them to come back. Again, couple more games that are winnable on their schedule. This is not one of them, Cal.
I just really wanted them to be undefeated, so I got the best birthday present of all time of K-State absolutely obliterating their asses. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, it's time for the recap.
The entire Wager Talk family would like to wish our very own Hakeem Prophet and Rob Vino a happy birthday with a special 2-for-1 promotion to lock in both handicappers for the next 3 days at the price of one. Rob and Ski both celebrate their birthday on Wednesday, but we want to keep this party going for 3 days. So instead of paying $118 to bet alongside them, we cut the price in half and you can lock them both up for 3 days for only $59. Happy birthday and happy betting.
We are back, and it is time for the recap. For all of you guys that just scrolled to the end, you missed some really funny moments. So go back and actually pay attention. Take some notes. You might learn something from these guys. Joe, Marco, not necessarily head-to-head on Tennessee, LSU, but Joe says if you like the Vols, take a -1.5 in the first half, and Marco and I lean the Tigers +3. But we are head-to-head on Utah, UCLA. Marco says that his Pac-12 winner is no bias here. He likes Utah, but wait, because there's going to be lots of UCLA money coming in from Joe and I. We like UCLA plus the points here. Barking Dogs. Joe likes Washington State, which is coincidentally my best bet. Marco likes Texas Tech plus 9.5 over Joe's Oklahoma State Cowboys. And both guys apparently didn't check each other's notes, and neither did I. Made Joe public. Sandwich game. Nice little handshake there. South Carolina plus 10.5. And then Marco says that my Kansas State Wildcats are going to lose by 8 in Ames. If they lose, it's going to be in worse fashion than that, I can promise you. And Joe's trying to win ways to my heart and says KU is going to get absolutely blown off the map this weekend. We will see how this plays out on Saturday night. Good luck to all of you guys from Joe, Marco, Ralph, and myself. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Until then, let's bet on it.